Did you know that the 1940s, an era overshadowed by war and film noir, quietly birthed horror gems that modern audiences barely remember? These shadow-draped reels once made wartime viewers gasp, and they can still electrify the spine of anyone who dares press play today. Tonight's countdown resurrects 15 of those long-forgotten nightmares, each packed with eerie trivia and viewer-tested thrills that still make spines tingle today. So smash that like button, subscribe for more cinematic deep dives, and let's step into the darkness together. The Devil Commands, 1941. Boris Karloff trades Frankenstein's castle for a flickering attic laboratory as Dr. Julian Blair, a grieving scientist who hijacks early brainwave experiments to contact his dead wife. Viewers in 1941 felt equal parts awe and revulsion watching Karloff strap volunteers into a telepathic amplifier that looked like a steampunk Iron Maiden, only noisier. What most audiences never learned is that screenwriter Robert Hardy Andrews borrowed from then-new electroencephalography journals. Even the eerie helmet's pulsating LEDs were wired to actual oscilloscopes on set, making the visual buzz authentically scientific. Wartime censors balked at the film's suggestion that faith could be replaced by wires, so Columbia buried the picture in second-run theaters, where GIs on leave discovered it and whispered about its electric seance. Modern viewers still feel the claustrophobia of Blair's lab. Static crackles, rain pounds the roof, and Karloff's velvet voice turns scientific jargon into dark poetry. The finale, where the machine surges and the dead speak in overlapping radio frequencies, remains a headphone-worthy soundscape that predates found-footage horror by half a century. Watchers today report an uncanny sense of vintage VR, as if the crude dials and sparking coils are more immersive than any CGI spirit. The Devil Commands doesn't just raise goosebumps. It reminds us that grief, when wired to ambition, can still short-circuit the human soul. The Monster and the Girl, 1941. Imagine a courtroom drama smashed into a mad science jungle picture, then stirred with voodoo myth. Paramount marketed this film as a gangster thriller, hiding its pulpy twist. The brain of an executed man transplanted into a giant gorilla hell-bent on revenge. Audiences expecting legal intrigue were blindsided by a grim laboratory sequence that used genuine medical slides, borrowed from UCLA's pathology department to sell its brain swap setup. Studio memos later revealed executives feared Catholic backlash. They trimmed 3 minutes of sacrilegious dialogue, but prints shipped to rural theaters kept the uncut heresy fueling late-night legends. For modern viewers, the shock lies in how sincerely the movie treats its absurd premise. Cameraman Victor Milner frames alleyways in noir shadow, so when the gorilla bursts in wearing a fedora, yes, really, the tonal clash feels nightmarish instead of campy. Horror buffs today rave about the perspective shots. The beast's gaze glides down rain-slick streets, reminders of how primal fury lurks beneath civilized facades. And that final rooftop scene, gorilla-clutching church bells while mourners gather below, still lands an emotional punch, suggesting redemption can swing from the unlikeliest hands. The Face Behind the Mask, 1941. Peter Lorre's wide eyes mesmerize as Janos Sabo, a hopeful immigrant whose face is burned in a hotel fire, shattering his American dream overnight. Prosthetic masks, hand-sculpted from thin rubber and painted every morning at 3 a.m., transform Lorre from gentle watchmaker to vengeful mastermind. Contemporary audiences felt a chill not from gore, but from empathy. War-era newsreels of disfigured soldiers made Janos's plight painfully real. Little-known fact, Columbia quietly partnered with the U.S. Office of Civilian Defense, screening the film for surgeons studying psychological trauma. Present-day viewers still wince when Janos watches couples dance behind a curtained doorway, the camera locked on his half-lit mask, beautiful yet lifeless. The film toys with morality. We cheer his jewel heists because every glint of stolen diamond feels like a shard of his lost identity. When his mask finally cracks, both literally and figuratively, in the climax. Modern streamers report feeling the dread of social media filters shattering, proving this 1941 parable about appearance and worth is more relevant than ever. Cat People, 1942. Irina Dubrovna believes a Serbian curse will turn her into a panther if she's kissed, and producer Val Lewton turns that fear into cinema's most economical nightmare. Shot for just $134,000, the film saved money by leaving the monster unseen, a tactic forced by budget that birthed the modern jump scare. Trivia time. The famous Luton bus scene, sudden hiss of a city bus and total silence, made preview audiences scream loud enough to drown out the next 2 lines of dialogue, prompting RKO to rewrite its house sound mix guidelines. Viewers today marvel at shadows doing heavyweight storytelling. A pool lit only by rippling water, claw-like reflections dancing across a terrified swimmer. Streamers comment that the minimalism lets your own paranoia pounce, proving the mind can still conjure sharper fangs than CGI. With themes of immigration anxiety and marital repression, Cat People resonates with anyone who's ever feared the beast within may ruin the love they crave. The Leopard Man, 1943. Picture small-town New Mexico stalked by a circus leopard, or so we're led to think. Director Jacques Tourneur, fresh off Cat People, twists the concept of a killer cat into an exploration of mob psychology. Early audiences entered theaters expecting monster mayhem. They exited whispering about human footprints beside feline paw prints. Hidden Gem. Real crime reporter Anthony Gilbert coached Tourneur, feeding him clippings of Depression-era serial killers who used animal maulings as cover. Modern viewers find the film's suggestion, "The Beast is Us," eerily prescient. A celebrated scene shows a teenage girl locked outside her adobe home, pounding in terror as unseen claws approach. We never see the kill, yet headphone listeners swear they hear her heart stop. The Leopard Man's moody jazz score influenced Bernard Herrmann's later work, and present-day watchers note how its street lamp pools and railway shadows feel lifted from true crime podcasts. It's a reminder that sometimes the scariest monster holds a key instead of claws. The Seventh Victim, 1943. High society Satanists hide in plain sight in Greenwich Village, sipping espresso and chanting despair. Producer Val Lewton again turns thrift into menace, candlelit basements, echoing hallways, and a no-music finale that leaves only ragged breathing. Little-known fact, the script predicted a global death wish movement based on obscure psychoanalytic papers seized by the FBI, papers writer DeWitt Bodine actually read in a Columbia library. Studio execs ordered rewrites, but Lewton filmed the original nihilistic ending in secret, splicing it back after the censors left. Today's audiences, raised on cult documentaries, call The Seventh Victim Hereditary's silent grandmother. The film's bleak message that evil might politely ask you to end yourself hits harder in an era of online radicalization. Viewers praise Kim Hunter's wide-eyed innocence collapsing into quiet terror, and many report pausing the stream just to process that final subway car door closing on hope. 70-plus years later, the message still claws. Some secret societies don't want power, only your surrender. The Uninvited, 1944. Forget fake cobwebs. This is one of Hollywood's first serious ghost stories where the specter isn't a trick. Filmed on the craggy Cornwall coast, really California's Point Lobos, drenched in fog machines. The production used a theremin-laced score to suggest moaning winds. Paramount withheld press photos of the ghostly mother, deciding mystery sold more tickets. Hidden detail. Cinematographer Charles Lang employed a dual-exposure breathing effect, so the ghost's outline seems to inhale when it enters moonlight, a trick rediscovered by The X-Files 50 years later. Modern audiences adore the sibling banter that lures them into comfort before the icy haunting lands. Streamers comment on the film's empathy. The ghost isn't evil, but anguished, and viewers find themselves rooting for its redemption as much as the living couple's romance. The Uninvited proves that a well-timed chill across a candlelit staircase can trump 1,000 CGI jump scares, and that grief, like sea mist, seeps through every crack. Bluebeard, 1944. John Carradine prowls 19th-century Paris as puppeteer-painter Gaston Morel, whose marionettes smile while their master strangles models. Shot on reused Republic Western sets, director Edgar Ulmer masked budget woes with heavy fog and tilted alleys, inventing a proto-giallo style decades early. Fun fact, Carradine insisted on painting every canvas shown on screen. Art historians later traced his swirl technique to Viennese expressionists he studied pre-Hollywood. For today's viewers, Bluebeard's power lies in its suggestion that art can seduce and devour in the same stroke. When Morel's latest muse wanders through his puppet theater, flashlights bounce off glass-eyed dolls that seem to breathe, a scene streamers label nightmare fuel, no filter needed. The film's closing shot, with the puppets jerking as Morel hangs, still raises hairs. It whispers that a killer's legacy can dance on strings long after the hands that pulled them go limp. Isle of the Dead, 1945. Boris Karloff again, this time as a Greek general quarantined on a plague-ridden island during the Balkan Wars. Director Mark Robson traps characters in candlelit crypts, while the legend of the Vorvalaka, an undead spirit, infects their sanity. Production diaries reveal that Luton ordered genuine desiccated leaves shipped from Crete for authenticity, even as rationing crippled Hollywood supply lines. Present-day viewers resonate with the pandemic paranoia, coughing extras, suspicious glances, and isolation that weaponizes superstition. When a victim is mistakenly buried alive, streamers slam the pause button just to breathe. Isle of the Dead's quiet warning that fear, not germs, spreads fastest, feels ripped from yesterday's headlines, proving some nightmares are cyclical. Dead of Night, 1945. 5 strangers in an English country house share supernatural yarns, only to discover they're trapped in each other's nightmares. This anthology shattered British freeze-frame censorship rules by letting its infamous ventriloquist dummy sequence slide into outright possession. Trivia. The circular narrative structure puzzled critics until mathematician J. H. Conway cited it as inspiration for his loop theories in cellular automata. Modern viewers delight in spotting proto-Twilight Zone tropes, mirrors that alter reality, golf course ghosts, cracking jokes, and of course, the living dummy whose glassy stare seems to follow you off-screen. Social media threads explode with debates about whether the film's final shot, a camera diving back into the dream, predates Inception's spinning top by 65 years. Dead of Night still makes binge-watchers question whether they're awake, delivering meta-chills long before meta was clickbait. The Vampire's Ghost, 1945. Set in a steamy West African port, this film follows Webb Fallon, a centuries-old vampire running a saloon under flickering oil lamps. Screenwriter Lee Brackett, later of The Empire Strikes Back, wove in genuine Yoruba folklore, but studio execs slashed the dialogue to dodge foreign mysticism. They couldn't cut the dance scene, though, where local drummers summon a trance that ends with Fallon's fangs glinting, Republic's first on-camera blood-sucking close-up. Contemporary streamers note how the film sidesteps European castles to explore colonial guilt. The vampire preys not on virgins, but on exhausted sailors, making modern gig economy viewers shiver at the idea of being leeched by their own nightlife. Foggy swamp nights, torchlit rituals, and a showdown in crumbling ruins remind us atmosphere can outscare any filter, while Fallon's weary monologues still echo every insomniac's 3 a.m. doom scroll. The Body Snatcher, 1945. Karloff yet again, Triple Crown, as Cabman Gray, supplying corpses to a medical school in 1830s Edinburgh. Director Robert Wise adapted a Robert Louis Stevenson tale, but amped the moral rot. Gray whistles a lullaby while his cart's wheels thump over cobblestones hiding fresh graves. Production notes reveal Wise bribed local veterinarians for real skeletons to dress sets. Bona fide bones peek behind curtains in exam scenes. Viewers now praise the duel of consciences between Karloff and co-star Henry Danielle. A carriage ride lit only by lanterns forces Gray's grin to flicker like a jack-o'-lantern, an image YouTube commentators freeze-frame to study. The Body Snatcher's thesis that progress sometimes rides on the dead feels hauntingly current amid debates over medical ethics. Its last wordless shot, where the titular snatcher becomes the snatched, still raises a philosophical gooseflesh that won't fade with the credits. The Spiral Staircase, 1946. A mute servant stalked by a killer who targets imperfect women? Sound familiar? This proto-slasher traps heroine Helen in a Victorian mansion during a thunderstorm. Director Robert Siodmak filled the set with genuine antiques from New England estates, and rumor says the spiral staircase itself was salvaged from a demolished Boston hotel famed for suicides. Modern audiences admire the subjective camera that stalks victims through banisters, a trick John Carpenter later cited for Halloween. Viewers comment that Helen's silence forces them to hear dread, floor creaks, distant thunder, the killer's ragged breath. The film's critique of ableist ideology remains sadly modern. Every time the murderer sneers flawed, 2020's viewers feel the chill of online trolls weaponizing perfection. The Spiral Staircase proves suspense gains sharpness when wrapped in social commentary. She-Wolf of London, 1946. Heiress Phyllis Allenby fears she's murdering strangers under a lycanthropic curse. Universal sold the story as another Wolfman, but the real horror is gaslighting. Studio archives reveal the marketing department pushed lurid posters of fanged women while quietly betting word of mouth would carry the twist ending. That human greed, not fur, fuels the killings. To boost authenticity, makeup wizard Jack Pierce crafted unused wolf masks that later appeared in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Today, She-Wolf fascinates true crime fans. It's more psychological thriller than monster romp, exploring how suggestion can erode sanity. Viewers report feeling ancestral goosebumps when fog rolls over London parks and a woman's scream cuts the night. Even after the twist, they confess the curse still feels alive. Sometimes the scariest transformation takes place entirely in the mind and in the whisper campaigns of those who envy you. The Queen of Spades, 1949. Pushkin's tale of obsession becomes a Gothic fever dream set in 1800s St. Petersburg. Director Thorold Dickinson shot exteriors on a frozen British backlot, sprinkling marble dust to mimic snow. Crew members joked they coughed imperial lungs for weeks. The real secret weapon is Edith Evans, debuting on film at age 61, whose cracked whisper of the phrase 3-7 ace was recorded separately at half speed, then resynced for spectral resonance. Modern viewers enthralled by elevated horror praise its chiaroscuro frames. Candlelight gouges deep valleys into actor faces, turning parlors into catacombs. A pivotal gambling scene tightens like a noose. Every clink of coin echoes centuries of doomed ambition, a sound design trick achieved by dangling silver teaspoons inside the grand piano. Streamers agree the Queen of Spades ends on one of horror's cruelest punchlines, reminding anyone who's chased a quick win that the house, especially a haunted one, always collects. And there you have it. 15 shadow-soaked relics that prove the 1940s still know how to make your pulse race. Cue them up, dim the lights, and let yesterday's nightmares crash your watch list tonight. If one of these forgotten frights rattled you, drop a comment below and share your own hidden gem. Until next time, keep those reels rolling and your blankets pulled tight.